And welcome back. The volume of bilateral trade between the US and Indonesia is currently at around 30 billion US dollars. But there is, of course, still a lot of room for improvement. Metro TV's Krishna Sam talked with the US ambassador to Indonesia, Ambassador Sung Kim, who discussed America's commitment to increasing trade and also confirmed the interest of US companies to develop Indonesia's vaccine production. Let's listen in.
An Indonesian pharmaceutical company recently signed an MOU with some American companies on cooperations and research on vaccine production. To your knowledge, are there any further plans regarding Indonesia's development on vaccines and the United States' role in that?
Yeah, I know that Indonesian government and Indonesian companies are very interested in forming a vaccine partnership with U.S. companies, and they are in talks with U.S. companies. I think I would defer to the entities directly involved in the talks to describe where they are and their ongoing discussions. From my perspective, I think it would be great if we could form a partnership related to vaccines and bring some of the production here. That would be a wonderful development.
Sure. Now, Mr. Ambassador, I want to talk to you about trade and investment as well between Indonesia and the U.S. Now, you recently shared a courtesy call with the Indonesian Coordinating Minister of Economic Affairs, Pak Erlangga Hartarto, in which you discussed that there was still lots of room for Indonesian and U.S. trade to develop. Could you elaborate further? What kind of near future plans are there?
So as I prepared to come out to Indonesia as ambassador, I was really surprised and disappointed to learn that bilateral trade between the United States and Indonesia was less than $30 billion a year. It should be much bigger than that, given the size of the two markets and given the potential in the two countries. So I hope to dedicate great effort to finding opportunities to expand both trade and investment relationship between the two countries. There's enormous potential and enormous room for growth. And my sense is that my Indonesian counterparts are equally committed to finding ways to deepen the economic partnership between the two countries.
Right. Are there perhaps any further details on the certain agreements or trades, trade deals? For example, the extension of the Generalized System of Preferences, or GPS, that was in discussion earlier this year. What are the updates on that, Mr. Ambassador?
So the positive conclusion to the GSP review was a very important milestone for our economic partnership. It helped us resolve many of the outstanding issues that had concerns on both sides. But there's more work to be done, and I'm really glad that there will be a meeting of the Trade and Investment Framework Agreement, what we call TIFA, meeting later this year. And for the first time in many years, it will be headed by ministers on both sides. On the Indonesian side, it will be the Trade Minister Lutfi. On the U.S. side, it will be USTR Ambassador Catherine Tai. So I think the fact that we're elevating this meeting to the ministerial level is an indication of interest and commitment in both Washington and Jakarta on finding ways to deepen our economic relations.
Right, and that's happening later this year?
Later this year, yeah.
Do you have any details, for example, on the target? For example, as you mentioned, right now trade is under 30 billion. Is there a certain target that the U.S. is aiming for?
Yeah, no, I don't think there's a numerical target. But both sides agree that our economic partnership should be much bigger, both in terms of trade and investment. I should mention that one of the important factors that companies and potential investors look at is whether the economic environment, both trade and investment environment in whatever country, Indonesia or anyone else, has transparency, consistency, and an environment that's really friendly to attracting foreign investment. And in talking to U.S. companies and other companies, I mean, there are some issues that need to be addressed here in Indonesia, and I hope that through our ongoing discussions at different levels, but very importantly at the ministerial TIFA talks later this year, we will be able to address some of the concerns and issues that have been causing difficulties for U.S. companies.
All right. Could you go into further detail, perhaps?
Well, I would defer to our esteemed ministers to work out in TIFA talks.
Great. So as we know, as we mentioned, Indonesia and the US, they are trade partners. It's under 30 billion. But Indonesia also has many other trade partners as well. The largest one is, of course, China. Now, Indonesia is the largest country in the ASEAN region. It's a key target for many exports and such. What is sort of the US's strategy in increasing investments into Indonesia, especially with sort of the competition from other countries in Asia?
Yeah, so we're working very closely with stakeholders, both here in Indonesia and in the US. Different business organizations such as the US Chamber and the US ASEAN Business Council to, first of all, raise awareness about the opportunities that are present in Indonesia. And we're, of course, working very closely with the Indonesian government and Indonesian business organizations, especially KADIN, to try to look for opportunities and do whatever we can to seize those opportunities so that we are, in fact, seeing more robust economic activity between our two countries, both in terms of trade and investment. It's an ongoing effort. I mean, I'm not going to tell you that overnight we will be doubling annual trade, but because there is such strong commitment and interest in both sides, I'm optimistic that we will be able to expand our trade and investment relations going forward.
Right. So by the end of this year and hopefully by next year, there will be increased trade and investment deals.
I hope so.
Indonesia and the US.
I hope certainly there is growing interest, and we want to make sure that we tap into the enormous potential that exists here in Indonesia.